Dakota, as some of you may know, means ally or friend in Native American Sioux. Dickinson State University wasn't my first choice. It was my only choice. After a series of frustrating transfer after transfer, lost scholarship after lost scholarship, I found myself here at Dickinson. I white-knuckled my way in, complete with all my fears and bias. I had to make new friends, take additional courses, find my footing in a nearly all-white school. In case you haven't noticed, I am black. I will stand out like a sore thumb and feel your stares of curiosity and judgment. At least these were my thoughts at the time. Whether you're stepping on a campus from a big city or a small town, you're stepping into the shadow of your fears. It's inevitable. It's a big change, different people. An adjustment for all who cross these school lines. As I took in the fresh air of the North Dakota plains, I exhaled my own prejudices and slowly allowed myself to look into each one of your eyes and pray that at least one of you would be my Dakota, my ally, my friend. I dove into my studies and sports, developed bonds with teammates, friendships with classmates. I became part of the framework of this school, and in turn, many of you became part of the framework of my life. I came here to be an athlete, but left with the greater gift of an education. When I graduated in 2013, I felt my future was bright and had hope that my experience in North Dakota would follow me. I wish I could tell you that in the year of our Lord 2021, that the North Dakota experience of allyship and friendship has infiltrated the world. Instead, I stand before you as a black man worried about leaving my house. Knots in my stomach when I get pulled over by the police. I constantly contemplate the thought of not having children because I know I cannot protect them. I know I have no chance in hell of protecting them. In 1852, Frederick Douglass gave a keynote address at an Independence Day celebration in Rochester, New York, asking, "What to the slave is the 4th of July?" Frederick Douglass was a free man, but many of his people were still enslaved. He approached the crowd with gentle words, as many in attendance were his allies, his Blue Hawks, his North Dakotans. He says, "The fact, ladies and gentlemen, the distance between this platform and the slave plantation from which I escaped is considerable. And the difficulties to be overcome in getting from the latter to the former are by no means slight. That I am here today, to me, is a matter of astonishment as well as of gratitude." That's what Frederick Douglass said in 1852. While I'm no Frederick Douglass, I too stand before you with humility. I came here to play ball after losing 4 scholarships from my freshman to junior year. I arrived with my tail between my legs, a discarded athlete, a failure. My expectations were low, and I had set ideals about class and race and did not perceive that this community would accept me, much less help me. But you did. Dr. Grabowski was the first professor to spend time and care for me as a person. This was an uncommon bond, as Dr. G, many of you know, has a more conservative political outlook. My experience with conservatives had been one of judgment and hostility. I held the belief that all Republicans were closed-minded. That was the belief I walked on campus with. Come to find out, Dr. G wasn't like any conservative or Republican that I had previously encountered. He understood the gap between cultures didn't mean there had to be a gap in understanding. He helped break down my own prejudice barriers by being an authentic listener, a trusted ally, an empathetic friend, and an invested partner. I listened to his stories, and he listened to mine. Our relationship didn't happen overnight. Friendships, partnerships, they take time. It took me a while to confide in Dr. G due to my own history. I didn't believe in people in general, and definitely not in an older, white, conservative male. Dr. G didn't care about my distrust. He was consistent in our friendship, and his words held weight because they did not waver. As trust was built around our relationship, I relied on his advice and felt safe with his words. He understood me to the best of his ability, and what he didn't understand, he held a space for me to grieve, vent, or scream without judgment. He and others, Professor Markison, Dr. Dragseth, Coach Ty Orton, they were present in my struggles, and I will forever owe them a debt of gratitude for showing me what real allyship looks like, what an invested partnership between class, race, and culture feels like. While touring the campus this week, I've had the pleasure of meeting more of the faculty whose leadership continues the tradition of open dialogue, allowing the students from all walks of life a chance to be seen and heard. I wish I could say the same outside the walls of DSU. Since I've left North Dakota, I have not felt the same safety around the words and actions of my white contemporaries. Since the upheaval of our country, even as a grown man, I have not felt safe in my own neighborhood. I asked myself, in the vein of Frederick Douglass's 1852 speech, what to the black man is America? Douglass says this: for the purpose of this celebration is the 4th of July. It is the birthday of your national independence and of your political freedom. This to you is what the Passover was to the emancipated people of God. It carries your minds back to the day into your great deliverance. The disparity between Frederick Douglass's experience and those of his white friends is blatant. They enjoy their festivities while black people continue to be thought of as 3/5 of a human. The enslaved continue to plow the land with the sweat equity of their flayed backs and pay the price of speaking out with their lives. As I read through his speech, it's as if nothing has changed. The black man doesn't always feel the independence of freedom or the deliverance from injustice. One crisp North Dakota evening at DSU, I went out with 4 white teammates after a game. We were going to a party, and on our way there, we were pulled over by the police. I was sitting in the back seat, surrounded by white kids, so I didn't feel scared, but I was a little nervous. As the officer approached the vehicle, he beamed his flashlight into the car, and his blinding light found its way on my face and stayed on my eyes, like a spotlight in an interrogation room. The officer said nothing for a moment, and then, "How do you know him?" asked the officer. I held my breath and froze. Would my teammates betray me? Would they say they didn't know me? That'd be ridiculous. They wouldn't do that. These are my friends. Are they my friends? Experience has taught me that just because you say you're a friend doesn't mean you will act like one. So I tried to be nonchalant, but I knew the officer could see the sweat glistening under his blinding light. I knew he could smell the full-fledged fear on me. How many of you have wondered if you would get out of a traffic stop alive? If you're black, every single time. Thankfully, these young men in the car were my friends. Gratefully, they stood up by me and responded with their own snarky reactions toward the officer. "What do you think?" said one. That response was a freedom. Being able to speak back to an officer without a gun in your face, a privilege. I'm not here to say cops are bad. So many are excellent in their field. We need them. They help protect and serve. They are supposed to focus on the bad guys and maintain law and order in our communities. But that day in the back of the car, I had the look of an enemy. I had the skin tone of a foe. That small interaction reminded me that even in the 21st century, being black has the potential to be life-threatening. My skin color is a threat to my existence, and there is nothing that I can do about it. There are prejudices, biases, and judgments formed the second you look at me. I'm grateful to have friends who saw through all of that to see me. My ride or dies, my co-accomplices. Do they still exist here? Are there advocates that take up for minorities here at this school? I believe so. I hope so. Racial bias, microaggressions run rampant across the world. New words to describe old behavior: systemic racism. There are many ignorant to the underbelly of their own racism. For some, it's part of their upbringing. They have family members that have a certain view of black people, and those ideals are ingrained in the psyche of their heritage. I understand. But there are others who hold the key to change at their fingertips. They are open to be understanding, but sometimes fall short in comprehending. They are listening, but not hearing. When a tornado hits a different part of the country, most people clasp their hands and say, "Oh my, that's terrible." When the government doesn't come to that state, say they post #help and feel like they've done something. They don't know what it's like to rush and secure the livestock, pack everyone in the safe space, and wait with fear, wondering if the tornado will pass you over. Because when it happens to you, when it destroys your home and levels your business, when the tornado comes and takes the life of your loved one, you wail and cry out against the government for their lack of aid, cry out against God for lack of protection. Neighbors band together to help and console, because in that moment, as a collective, you all know what it feels like to be violently displaced. Black people feel this every day. While you may not be able to understand because your house isn't touched by the tornado of racism, you are in the midst of us. You are our neighbor. Jesus says many times in the Bible, "Let him that has ears, let him hear." What I interpret that to mean is that if you can hear it, you should pay attention. You should study and seek to understand. If you have ears, please hear our cries and help change the course of our nation with dialogue, support, and invested partnerships. We all have a personal hardship, all of us. We have collective stories of loss within our communities. PTSD exists among all of us. But right now, we are at a crossroads. Black people did not create racism, and we need the support and the invested active partnership of everyone around us to help break the cycle, create the change, mend the divide, just like DSU did for me. Frederick Douglass continued in his speech by saying, "But such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence, bequeathed by your fathers, is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn. Frederick Douglass, July 5th, 1852. Past few years have been challenging, particularly in the last few months and weeks. We have seen the badly repaired cracks in our nation, its foundation break open. A great crag threatening our understanding and empathy as a whole. As a black man in America, I see your independence, your freedoms, your great deliverance. I am still looking for mine. Help me bridge the divide of injustice, close the gap of inequality, defenestrate the mindset of racism. Help mend the human chasm. Be a partner in fighting racism, even if that means examining your own ideals and prejudices. Educate yourself on the foundation of racism and the inequalities black people have endured. Then take a breath, because there will continue to be a long list of minorities and disenfranchised people who have had their land robbed from them, their businesses burned, and lives taken. In most Native American history, a hawk symbolizes a guardian, a messenger and an agent of change. In this part of the country, a blue hawk sighting is rare, not at DSU. Now is the time to rise from your high hidden nests and circle the wounded and the maligned. Now is your time to help with our freedom and our deliverance. Now is the time to be seen and heard as our invested neighbor, friend, and ally. You are the agent and leader of change. You are the Blue Hawks of Dickinson State University. Frederick Douglass asked, "What to the slave is 4th of July?" I am here today as a Blue Hawk, an adopted North Dakotan. I am asking you, my rare invested partners, what to the black man is America? What to DSU is diversity and inclusion? What to you is the process of change? One of the great moments felt here at DSU was the moment I felt seen. I wasn't lost in the crowds of a bigger university. The quality of our professors and the open dialogues of the classrooms provided me with support and encouragement. DSU was my agent of change, my guardian and messenger to my future. Oh my gosh. I hope you feel seen. I hope you feel heard. I hope this message encourages all of you to be allies to each other so that our country can one day reflect the message that we are all created equal. Thank you, DSU, for being there for me in the past. Thank you for being there for us in the present. Our futures depend on it. Thank you.